Us to talk about the fight over redistricting at the state legislature and to share her thoughts moving forward. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. A musical adaptation of American Psycho will soon be on stage at the Hobby Center. We'll speak with the show's composer, Grammy nominee, and Tony Award winner, Duncan Sheik.
Plus, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts, questions, and concerns? You can give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to HoustonPublicMedia.org and click the big orange banner.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The FBI searched the home of President Trump's former national security advisor turned sharp critic, John Bolton. When asked today about a search of Bolton's home outside Washington, D.C., the FBI said only that it had conducted, quote, court-authorized activity in the area, and added there is no threat to public safety. Once a trusted insider of the first Trump administration, Bolton became a vocal critic of Trump's foreign policy and his presidency. Today, President Trump referenced his attorney general when he told reporters that he didn't know about today's search in advance.
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer, but I feel that it's better this way.
Upon returning to office, Trump revoked Bolton's security clearance and the security detail that was in place because of threats from Iran. A UN-backed panel of experts on starvation has declared that northern Gaza is now suffering from a full-blown famine. The panel says 500,000 people there are facing, quote, catastrophic conditions. NPR's Jackie Northam reports from Tel Aviv. This comes after almost 2 years of war and Israeli restrictions on relief aid entering the devastated territory.
The report by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, says 500,000 people in Gaza are facing the most severe level of hunger crisis, characterized by starvation, destitution, and death. It also warns that another 1 million people, about half the population of Gaza, are facing severe food deprivation, and that more than 130,000 children under the age of 5 are at risk of death from acute malnutrition in the coming year. The IPC does not assign blame. Israel has denied there's a hunger crisis in Gaza and has restricted food and medicine going into Gaza, saying Hamas steals them and uses them for its own purposes. Jackie Northam, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is surging further into record territory, up now more than 950 points. This after Fed Chair Jerome Powell signaled a possible interest rate cut.
And the stability of the unemployment rate and other labor market measures allows us to proceed carefully as we consider changes to our policy stance.
Powell speaking at the Fed's annual conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming today. In the most recent Fed meeting, policymakers opted to keep rates unchanged, citing current economic data and tariffs. President Trump has publicly disparaged Powell for not supporting a rate reduction. Powell's term expires next May. The Dow is up 954 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. The Texas legislature is moving forward yet again with a bill that would eliminate STAR testing. A similar proposal failed to pass during the regular session. News 88.7's Bianca Seward has the details.
Education Commissioner Mike Morath spoke at today's House hearing. He said the single end-of-year assessment pushed districts to hold several practice tests during the year, creating a stressful environment for the students.
We know with certainty that that's a bad instructional practice. That should not be happening in schools. It does not improve the performance of students. It causes negative anxiety in the students.
The new bill proposes replacing the single exam with 3 shorter tests that would be administered throughout the school year and with results posted in 48 hours. If passed, the changes would go into effect for the 2027-2028 school year. The Senate is scheduled to host a hearing for their version of the bill Thursday morning. I'm Bianca Seward for News 88.7.
No need to wait until halftime to see some of your favorite HBCU marching bands. The National Battle of the Band is this Saturday at 4:30 at NRG Stadium. Executive producer Derek Weber is expecting 40,000 attendees.
For us, it's a passion point, and it's really an opportunity for us to help contribute and give back. This year, we're approaching $2.2 million in scholarship giving over the last 11 years with this program. We started off only contributing $5,000 the first year.
Wow.
And now we're up to $50,000 per school.
Weber told Hello Houston bands include the Marching 100, Sonic Boom of the South, Ocean Soul, and others. Checking your weather, it's going to be partly sunny with afternoon showers and thunderstorms today, a high of 94. Tonight, thunder showers and then mostly cloudy overnight with a low of 78. Right now, it is partly cloudy and 82 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org for more news and information. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include ARM. On the latest episode of Tech Unheard, ARM CEO and host Renee Haas talks to musician and activist Peter Gabriel about how tech and AI are helping to shape the future in creativity and innovations.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hey,
it's Friday.
Boy, you two are my little choir over here.
Do you have a day of like a day? Because you like dates, right?
Yes.
So let me just say this: the 22nd of every month. I was born on the 22nd, but my jobs happened on the 22nd. The 22nd is always a good date for me.
Really?
Do you have that?
Yes, numbers, now it could be a little hokey, but some people think that there are significance in numbers. And
it's just coincidence for me. But
the 22nd, good things happen.
Ernie?
I don't have a day. I have a day. I like Fridays, and this is a Friday, and I'm very happy to finally be at one. And we have got a full show ahead of us. I will say, I always forget that there is an animated open to our show. There's a little graphic thing that runs. If you're not watching us on our YouTube channel, you've never seen that. I keep forgetting. I had it up on my computer right now, and I just saw it. So go to youtube.com and then just look for the Houston Public Media channel, or go to hellohouston.org, and there's an orange banner there. Click that, and you can watch us live. And as always, we said, there's a group over there that gets together every day, and we kind of get worried if we don't see some of our regulars in the group chat.
British computer guys on.
Yes, and Here There is usually on. And but it's also really important to subscribe, and I finally realized why. So when you subscribe... When you subscribe to that channel, then whenever you're in YouTube and you're in your feed, if you haven't seen something, maybe a segment, it'll funnel through your feed. And so, it's important.
Subscribe, and hit the bell. The bell will let you know whenever we're going live again or there's a new video posted. Also, just drop a comment in the chat area. Just say hello or something. That will then help our ability to share this out on the internet, because the more comments that you get, the higher you place in the algorithm. So think about that.
And I also love when you all send us emails. I really do. So don't forget to send us emails if there's something on your mind, or it may be a story that you really think we should cover. We've gotten some very interesting stories that we're working on to bring to you all that's happening in your backyard, that's happening out in Katy, or if it's happening in Cypress. Let us know. Galveston, that's what we're here for.
Why did you look at me when you said Galveston?
Well, because we know you're in Galveston. Frank's heart lives in Galveston.
Somebody referred to you the other day to me as, well, Frank, the mayor of Galveston.
Yeah. That's a non-paid job, by the way.
Oh, then it's perfect for you.
The Houston mayor is one of the highest paid mayoral jobs in the country.
Wait, the Houston mayor?
Yeah, the Houston mayor gets paid, I think, one of the top 5 salaries.
Wow.
But Galveston, nothing. Now, the city manager makes a little coin, but not...
Yeah.
Anyway, did you have a thunderbolt in your bedroom this morning?
But apparently you did. Tell us about it.
Oh my gosh! I have never heard thunder. I thought the lightning was in the bedroom.
Yeah. Well, I was getting dressed today. The power went out, and then it came right back on. But it reset all my clocks, which I always hate when it does.
Well, it's still storming out there, especially north of Houston. So watch out along the coast. A little rain. Yeah. It's going to be a wet day. We can see 2 to 3 inch downpours. So be careful. We can see some quick street flooding. It does look like it's going to dry out a little bit more on Saturday and Sunday, but then it's back next week.
All right. And I also want to talk to you about the cold front that's coming in. God. There is. I saw it on the maps. We'll talk later about that.
Ernie, also, you could never be a weatherman or a meteorologist ever.
Why?
Because you always jump like weeks ahead.
No. It's coming in by next week. There's this cold front coming down, and there's a high pressure pushing up, and the line is right through Houston.
I'm skeptical.
Well, that's the problem. That's why we're going to have the increased rain chances next week.
See, there's something
the line
to what I'm
right
saying.
through Houston. The front won't get through. It'll just make it wet.
Oh.
I know. That's a front is a
we gave away
front
that
is as
lead.
much a boundary as anything. It can be the boundary between warm and cold air, but also dry and moist air, or even sometimes just a wind shift. So
well, right now we're the boundary between us and more information for our audience.
So let's go.
Quickly coming up on the show today, we have singer, songwriter, and composer Duncan Sheik coming to join us. You may know him from the 90s hit Barely Breathing or from his Tony Award-winning musical Spring Awakenings. He's reworking American Psycho for the Houston audience as a musical. He'll tell us all about that. But big important news is happening in our politicses.
Yes.
And that's going to start us off on our headlines today.
That's right. And we already did receive a comment in our YouTube section that says, from Judy Kraft, looking forward to hearing from Jolanda Jones.
Don't give away the lead.
That's right. So
there we go.
Thank you, Ernie. As the story continues, Wednesday, the Republican-controlled Texas House passed the new congressional map. That makes very possible the adding of as many as 5 additional Republican seats to the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, as the bill moves towards the governor's desk for signing, the battle of redistricting spreads. California Democrats are moving quickly to implement a plan to carve up their state's maps in retaliation. And no, it doesn't end there. Top Republicans in states like Indiana, Missouri, and Florida are also looking to redraw their maps to create more Republican-controlled congressional seats for the 2026 elections. One move to stop this mid-decade redistricting that caught the nation's attention was Democratic Texas House members breaking quorum and leaving the state to derail Governor Abbott's first special session. As a new special session began, the Dems returned and a quorum was reached and the map was approved in the Texas House. But not all Texas state representatives returned. Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones has remained out of the state and outspoken. And I believe she is back, and joining us now is Representative Jolanda Jones. Representative Jones, thank you so much for joining us today.
You know,
I don't think we hear
your mic? Oh, there we are. Okay.
There we are.
Sorry again. Please start again.
Please start again.
So I said, let me be clear. Let me get straight in there. I did not go back. I was not going to participate in that rigged game. And I don't think we won, because the truth is, if California wipes out all the Republicans and New York wipes out all the Republicans, and I don't know if that's possible, that still doesn't fix what's going on here. Briscoe Cain, who is a MAGA Republican, literally filed to run in Congressional District 9, which is currently represented by Congressman Al Green. So I didn't go. I did not submit myself to that. I was not going to sign a permission slip. I was not going to come back to the plantation, because for all intents and purposes, they're trying to take us back to Jim Crow. They're trying to take us back to pre-Voting Rights Act of 65. They're trying to take us back to pre-Civil Rights Act of 1964. So I did not go back. I was not a part of that. And the second we gave them a quorum, they were able to pass those racist maps.
Mm-hmm. You are back now, though, and you are doing the work of the people, correct?
Right. I'm doing the work. Let me be clear. Yes, I'm back in Texas. Mm-hmm. I got back yesterday. I'm in the Public Health Committee meeting where we're dealing with that and talking about the floods and regulating camps, because all those babies died in Kerrville because the camps weren't regulated. So, yes, I'm doing the business of Texas. But even when I was not in Texas, my district office was open, taking care of the concerns that my constituents had about what's going on in this state. So I did not abandon my office. We did not abandon our offices. My district office is running strong, and it is continued to run strong. I just left this state because I was not going to subject myself, or I wasn't going to give them a quorum to pass the racist maps that passed the second they got a quorum.
So, Ms. Jones, I have a quick question. I made this remark last week that it's feasible that if you did the right kind of or the wrong kind of gerrymandering, you could pretty much turn every district in Texas red. Is that far-fetched?
Sure.
Oh, so I'm not crazy to think that.
It's absolutely true. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
And I'll just use Houston as an example. In Houston, or actually in Texas, Black people are concentrated for the most part in two places where there's a critical enough mass of us to be able to elect the representative of our choice. And that is in the Houston area, and that is in the Dallas area, which is why it's not a coincidence that the 4 Black Texas congresspeople, 2 come from Dallas or Dallas area, 2 come from Houston. In Dallas is Jasmine Crockett and Mark Vesey. That's Dallas and Fort Worth. In Houston, it was Congressman Turner and Congressman Green, Harris County and Fort Bend. So since they're concentrated, and what they've actually done is they've gone to those concentrated areas and just split it up, right?
Right.
And they just split it up, and then they stretch the district out into the rural area where there's nothing but white people. Black people are only 12.33% of Texas's population. And Hispanic people are over the majority, but Hispanic people have a lot of people who are here. Like, let's say I live in a house, let's say there's 10 of us. Let's say there's a mom and a dad, and maybe they have 8 kids, right? Well, there's only 2 voting age people there, right? And we're assuming they vote. So what they've done with the Hispanic population is they made it seem like it's a Hispanic seat and that a Hispanic person can be elected because it's the Hispanics have, like, they're the population growth. That's why Texas is growing. Black people and white people, our populations are not growing. We're just not having as many kids, right? So it's misleading to think that just because there's a lot of you that all of you can vote.
Yeah.
So it's, and even in Congressional District 29, where Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, what they've done to her is they literally took Lindale Park, which is a strong neighborhood for Hispanics where they vote, and it was all together because that neighborhood or that area has communities of interest. They've literally split up Lindale Park to 3 separate congressional districts.
Yeah. I want to remind everyone that we are talking with Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones. If you would like to join the conversation or have a question, please give us a call. It's 713-440-8870. You can also text us. Representative, to help put this a little bit in perspective, what you're saying, and correct me if my numbers here are wrong, but when you look at the population of the state of Texas, 40% of the population, approximately, is Hispanic, 12% is Black, and 40% is white. That does not reflect our current representation. No, to take this a little further and help me along these lines, when you're a representative, you represent a community, a number of people. If you break up our representatives along racial lines, a white voter has 1 representative for every 445,000 people. A Latino voter has 1 representative representing 1.4 million people. And for every Black representative, they are having to represent 2 million people.
And when they get rid of the 2 Black seats, it's going to be 4 million.
Okay. So what I have trouble understanding here, and help me if you can with this, is that my understanding of how districts were drawn initially was that it's a number of people, and those people are to represent, these representatives are to represent a particular number of people, and that's all supposed to be the same. And that every district should have the same number of people in it, so 1 represent that. If we have the breakup of the 40, 40, and 12, or whatever I said a minute ago, that doesn't seem to reflect what's happening.
That's not. In fact, I'm trying to pull something up. I wish I should have probably sent it to you. I want to tell you what they did so that you can understand. I want to go back, and I'll take Houston districts. Okay. If we go look at Congressional District 9, which is where Congressman Green represents, of this new Congressional District 9, only 2.9% of the current Congressional District 9 has remained in this new Congressional District 9. They have literally taken 43.7% of CD 29, which is Sylvia Garcia's, and they have put 43.7% of Sylvia Garcia's constituents in the new Congressional District 9. They have put 40.7% of Congressional District 36, which I believe is either Hunt or some guy named Babin. They put 40.7% in the current CD9 that just passed. And they've taken 12.6% of CD2, which is a white Republican district, and put it into CD9.
I've heard, and I know the numbers get a little lost, but wrap that point up, but the numbers get lost on radio.
Well, the point I'm making is this. They've literally kept the current CD9, the one that just passed, or I should say the new CD9, only 2.9% of its constituents are there. When you compare that with CD19, which is a white Republican seat, they've kept it 100%.
Right.
So they've literally taken away the people that have been able to elect a representative of their choice, and they've cracked our communities in legal terminology. They've cracked our communities and divided us, and then they've packed us into the communities, into the congressional districts where they want for our power to be diluted.
So the argument would be, though, and I've heard it from the other side, is that the state voted in, the majority of Texans that voted for Donald Trump. They are a Republican, red-leaning state shown through the way they voted, and therefore, legally, they have the right to make the maps represent the political will of the majority of the people, and by adjusting these maps, they are fulfilling that edict, that want of the people. Your reaction to that argument?
So that's BS, right? Right now, the Republicans, or the white Republicans, represent even less than 40% of the representation, yet they are over 60% of the congressional representation. So, no, that's not true. But the Supreme Court under Donald Trump, who he owns them, has said that political gerrymandering is okay. So it's interesting that, at least when we started off, because I was on the redistricting committee, they said the only reason that they were redistricting was because of the DOJ letter that for the most part said Black and brown people are concentrated, go in, divide them up, because that's unconstitutional, right? It's not fair. They have some kind of unfair advantage, which is not true. And the first two redistricting committee hearings, the first three, that was their company line. Someone, I'm certain a lawyer, said, hey, you guys, you're going to cause this to be a violation of the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, and a violation of the 14th Amendment by saying that you're targeting people based on race. Mm-hmm. So now their talking points are, it's political because the Supreme Court says so. The point is, I think they've already hurt themselves, but no, they don't have the right to do that. And which is why I'm all for California doing whatever it is they're doing, although I would respectfully submit to you that California, if they are successful on November 4th, having their voters vote to actually redistrict, that still doesn't solve the Texas problem, right, which is that they're wiping out Black and brown representation, so that, in other words, Texans are not able to elect the representatives of their choice.
Okay, saying that, why do you think more brown people surged toward the Republican Party with Trump on the ticket? Why did that happen?
So I had the same question, and I came to some of my colleagues who are Democratic colleagues who are Hispanic, and I was like, why are you voting against your interests? I mean, U.S. citizens are being deported. Families are being separated. They're building a wall. They are literally creating undocumented people. When they dismiss their court cases in the immigration courts, then all of a sudden you're undocumented, and now you're a criminal in cover of darkness or mask. You know what they told me?
What?
They said, basically, again, this is not me. This is some of my colleagues have said that they should do it the right way. I'm like, well, what do you say about the people who had cases that got wrongfully thrown out. Well, they're coming here and they're undercutting us in prices, right? So let's say you've got a lawn care business, you charge $30 a lawn. They're saying that people who are coming over are charging $15 a lawn. And effectively what that's doing is that is making people go to the person who's charging $15 a lawn than the person who charged $30 a lawn. So they believe that it is affecting their ability to achieve the American dream. I was actually very, very, very surprised that they didn't seem to care about the deportations. They didn't seem to care about the separations of family or the deportations of U.S. citizens. And I don't understand it to me, but I'm just telling you what was told to me. And I thought, wow, so like Hispanic Democrats in the south of Texas, they're different than, say, the Hispanic Democrats in urban areas. They just have different issues. They're really concerned about people coming across the Rio Grande. They say it's a really big problem. And we don't have that problem in Houston and Dallas. Right. You know, we don't have the Rio Grande.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Democratic Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones, who represents House District 147. Representative Jones, but going back really quickly to the maps, I mean, there's no doubt that the last few weeks have been intense. But here we are today, right now, and the Texas House passed the redistricting map. What is the Texas Democratic legislators' plan? What is going to happen now moving forward?
I mean, what is there to do? I hope, wish, and pray that the Supreme Court defends our voting rights. I mean, that's the play, right? And we're also waiting for other states to do the same thing to Republicans that they've done to us in Texas. But I will say again, it doesn't matter if every other Democratic state is able to carve out every Republican congressperson. That doesn't give Texans, Black and brown Texans, poor Texans, the ability to fairly and non-racially elect the representative of their choice.
Do you see the California maps offsetting what has happened right here in Texas?
No, the California maps do not offset what happened in Texas. Even if they're able to get 5 seats, that doesn't change the fact that people in Acres Homes who always were in Congressional District 18 are now in Congressional District 29. Doesn't change that fact. Doesn't change the fact that Briscoe Cain, who's a MAGA Republican, may very well win Congressional District 9, which Congressman Al Green, a progressive Democrat, currently represents. So no, I would respectfully submit to you that California doing what they do, or New York doing what they do, or whatever Democratic states, Maryland doing whatever they're going to do, does not fix the problem for Texans. And I was elected to represent House District 147, which is actually in 3 of the targeted districts, Texas 18, Texas 9, and Texas 29. And those 3 districts are forever changed. Texas 18 doesn't even look the same. Acres Homes is no longer in Texas 18. If you're from Texas and you heard Congressman Turner, he always told people he was from Acres Homes. He was from the Fofo. That's no longer in Texas 18.
Yeah. We are talking with Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones. Our phone number here, if you'd like to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. We have Cecilia on the phone from Northwest Houston. Cecilia, what's on your mind today?
First-time caller. Thank you so much for taking my call. Ms. Jones, I've been a Democrat all my life, and my family historically Democrat. How can we help otherwise than voting? Because blind, crippled, or crazy, I'm going to crawl to the poll. How can we do more?
Cecilia, thank you for that. Representative?
Take a friend with you.
I just think that I think that we have to, and one of the things I do think we were successful at is getting the nation to talk about redistricting, what it is, and why it's important to vote. So in Texas, we're going to have to vote like we've never voted before. Because, so we've got to go out and talk to people. As families, we've got to talk about voting. I literally am having conversations with my family members, some of whom never even think about voting, some of whom have never voted. And I'm telling them I need for you to go vote.
As you
That's
talk
the
about
only
that,
way.
though, hearing everything else we're talking about, and we got a comment like this on our YouTube, does that mean I shouldn't go and vote if my vote doesn't mean as much anymore? When you see these cracked like this, it's going to demoralize, I fear, a lot of voters.
It has demoralized people, but what are we going to do, give up? I mean, during the civil rights movement, and at least Black people and the people that were our allies during the civil rights movement, we didn't win every race or every fight. We got lynched, we got assassinated, we got hosed, we had dogs sicked on us. It was hard. I mean, we had to drink in separate fountains, and we just took one little piece of justice at a time until we got to where we are. So yeah, I mean, if you've played sports, you've had refs that cheated, right? You've had the deck stacked against you. We can't throw up our arms and be like, they cheated. We've got to figure out a way to win despite the cheating.
And we also did get another YouTube comment from Miss Lisa Ann Mason, who says, "Thank you, Miss Jones, for fighting for us. I'm in District 18. This is disgusting."
We have Joe calling from Deer Park. Joe, what is your comment or question?
My comment is that, Ms. Jones, you seem to be discrediting the legitimate reasons that your Black and brown constituents are voting. I could hear it in your voice, giggling or laughing at their concerns about being undercut on pay. You mentioned doing yard work at $30 versus $15, but those are voters. You don't need to downplay their concerns because they don't align with your own.
Joe, thank you for your
giggling,
comment.
respectfully.
Let Jolanda answer.
So respectfully, I wasn't giggling. And I'm telling you, that's not what I said. When I asked my colleagues who are in South Texas, why are you voting against your interests? Why are your constituents voting against their interests? That is what they told me is going on down at the border. So that's not, I don't know that to be true in Houston or in Dallas in urban areas.
Are you concerned?
Because I wanted to know, like, to me, if you deport a U.S. citizen, that is the worst thing you can do, right? Why aren't you, because you're a U.S. citizen, you shouldn't be getting deported. Like, why aren't you upset about that? And they told me what they told me. I was very surprised. I was very surprised.
Are you concerned, and have you talked with your colleagues in other states about this Pandora's box, this can of worms this is opening up, of this redistricting race that looks like it's launching all across the country? And how do we understand that as our current democracy and what's happening?
So, no, I'm not. So first of all, what am I supposed to do? I'm just supposed to let Trump come and racistly redistrict and sit on my hands and do nothing. Well, we've got to fight fire with fire. So I say, go for it, California, go for it, New York, and go for it for every other Democratic state, because what you're doing to somebody can be done to you. So now I'm not going to sit up here and follow rules that have always been followed when other people are clearly breaking them. And when they control the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is undoing well-established law like the right to abortion. Well, like churches can now endorse, right? There should be a separation of church and state. So it's like the rules that were fought long and hard for with decades of establishment are now thrown out the window. So we better figure out how to fight them like they're fighting us. Otherwise, I believe this country will be destroyed.
Are you going to reach out? I'm assuming you're going to reach out to not just Black and brown people, but a lot of white people that feel disenfranchised. And there are a lot of people that they don't know what to do. They're like, I'm white. I want to vote to help other people. I don't want to just go with the flow, but I don't have any Black or brown people reaching out saying, join my team.
So we have asked for that. But right now, the redistricting has literally targeted Black and brown communities. Those are the communities.
Can you prove that in court? Can you prove that in court?
Oh, absolutely. I was trying to give you numbers. You said that the numbers didn't work well on radio. Yeah. Like literally, if you go look at the white districts in Texas, they haven't touched them. Those districts are in CD 19. It's 100% itself. Mm-hmm. And so it's not touched. But in CD9 literally only has 2.9% of itself left. That is racist. If the only districts that are being divided, technically in legal terms, cracked and packed, or communities of color, which mostly are black and brown in Texas, that is racism.
Can you get that before a judge? Are you making efforts to get that to a court? And I think you muted yourself by accident.
Somebody muted me because I'm not touching it.
No,
but if I look, if I look, for example, if I look at CD1, right? If I look at Congressional District 1, which is a white Republican seat, they have changed it a little bit, but it still maintains 84.8% of its constituents, right? So for the most part, it is whole. If you go back and look at CD2, and I'm looking at the new plan compared to the old plan, in CD2, it has maintained 79.8% of its constituency, which means that whoever's in that is going to probably stay elected. If you look at CD3, it's maintained 75.9% of its constituency. It's probably going to stay the same. If you go look at districts that have black and brown representation, Congressman Green, Congressman Turner, Jasmine Crockett, and Mark Vesey, CD9 has maintained 2.9% of its constituency. If you look at CD18 has maintained only 25.8% of its constituency. If you go look at CD30, which is where Jasmine Crockett is, it has maintained 68.7% of its constituency, but it had a larger black constituency. And if you look at CD33, which is Mark Vesey, which again, he's black, CD33 has only maintained 32.7% of its constituency, which means that only 32.7% of those people are used to voting for whoever the new congressperson is. But if you look at the white districts, they have maintained the overwhelming majority of their original constituencies. If that's not racism, I don't know what it is.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Democratic Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Joseph in Northwest Houston is on the line. Joseph, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question for Representative Jones?
Hey, I have a question. I was looking at the map and how it's being gerrymandered, but my question is, are there no benefit, no positivity whatsoever we can get from this map, either by just new blood, new set of people to represent us? Are there nothing positive that can come out of this map? I'll take the response off air.
Thank you, Joseph. Representative?
I do not believe there are any benefits.
Yeah.
There are none, right? So you've got Trump literally kicking more people off of their health care than ever before with Medicaid and Medicare. You've got Trump who doesn't believe that we're entitled to Social Security, the Social Security that we literally have paid into for our entire lives. It's not a handout. It's literally our pension that we paid into. And they're wiping it out. And I will tell you that every Republican, I know whatever Trump says, he does. He's done these tariffs. Everything is more expensive. Eggs that used to be $6 are now $13. So if you think that something is good of that, and that when Trump tells Republicans jump and they say how high, that's good for poor people, it is not. I mean, they're literally cutting Social Security to give billionaires tax breaks. Like, in what world are we living in?
I'm going to jump in here, 713-440-8870. Maria is on the line from Spring. Maria, what's on your mind?
Hi. With all due respect, I heard Ms. Jones speak and asking why the brown community voted, against the constituents. I understand that, but coming from the brown community, Hispanic, we see how others are coming on and actually not doing the way that the American way is supposed to be. We're supposed to work, we're supposed to move forward, and we're looking at them and we're saying that's not right. We're trying to be Americanized. We're not trying to stay segregated based on where we come from. I understand the representation, but the representation that we're asking for is from Americanized based districts. That's what we're wanting by voting red.
Thank you, Maria. Representative, your reaction?
I really don't understand what she just said. So I don't understand what she's saying. Everyone here, the only people that can vote are American. You can't vote if you're not American. So the votes, whether they vote red or whether they vote blue, are American votes. What I'm saying is, let's say you have an undocumented person in your household, right? Because there are people who are going through the citizenship process and it takes time. So you want to be able to call a congressperson. If you got, I don't know, maybe your mom is working on her papers, you want to be able to call a congressperson who will understand that your mom is trying to go through the proper process, not call a congressperson who thinks, oh, they don't have their papers, deport them. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's against your interest. So you want a congressperson, and the rules are, it's the same in the state house. When someone calls my office, they may have a problem, right? I have a reputation of having good constituent services. So people are like, oh, Ms. Jones will help me. They'll call my office. The first thing I'm going to ask is, where do you live? Mm-hmm. Because I help constituents of House District 147. It's the same in Congress. So if you're in a district where they're anti-immigrant and you call your congressperson, that congressperson can't help you. And then if you call another congressperson who is not your congressperson to help you, that congressperson can't help you because the rules are you can only expend congressional resources on your district. Mm-hmm. So you are literally being disenfranchised because you don't have a congressperson who cares about the issues that are important to you.
Representative Jones, if Democratic legislators had the opportunity to redraw the maps, would you return them to the prior maps or would you change them drastically?
Well, I actually submitted a map for the first special session that attempted to restore Congressional District 18, Texas 18, to where it was before. Mm-hmm. That died, right? I mean, we were able to kill that because Texas 18 was what it was for years. It came into existence in 1973, and for the most part, the core representation was there. But when they redistricted in 2021, they divided things up. They had to go up to Spring. It had never gone up to Spring. They changed it. And in fact, that map from 2021 is currently being litigated right now. That litigation is not even done. The briefs in that are due in September.
Let me jump in here and try and get a couple more. Let me try and get a couple more calls in before we run out of time. 713-440-8870. Will is on the line. Will, what's on your mind?
Hi, Ernie. It's Celeste and Frank. Also, I enjoyed News and Brews a couple of months back and hope you all do that again. So my question is more along the lines of why isn't there a stronger push from state Democrats to create nonpartisan commissions to draw up these districts? Like I know at the federal level, Amy Klobuchar had tried to introduce a redistricting reform act back 2 or 3 years ago that failed. But why isn't there just a little bit more of a sensible push that I think would make a lot more sense if that, when you look at these district lines, they don't make sense as far as from a geographical stance. Why can't we figure out ways to take out the partisanship and the cracking and packing and try to have a more sensible, mathematic approach of how we can fit people in and have them best well represented?
Will, I'm going to stop you right there so the representative has a chance to answer.
So let me be clear. Democrats have tried to stop this and move towards that. Republicans have voted against it. So, I mean, the only person I can control is me. I can't control a Republican. Right now, the Republicans have the opportunity to redistrict politically, is what they're saying. But again, the only way to do it in Texas is to target the Black and brown communities.
Do you even know who, Ms. Jones? Do you even know who drew these maps?
Representative Hunter said they were given to him by a law firm, and he didn't know. I believe AI did it because every congressional district has to have the exact same amount of people, and it is with surgical precision to divide up the Black and brown communities and put a little here and a little there and a little there in districts that are mostly white to dilute the voting power of Black and brown people. So no, they haven't told us. They didn't tell us any of that. The question was asked, but he said he didn't know.
Yeah. Let's squeeze one more quick question in from a caller. It is Baba. Baba, what's on your mind?
It's actually a comment.
Okay.
And what I would just want to say is when you lose election, it has consequences. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to say, but President Biden should not have been president. If he could not contest against Hillary Clinton in 2016 primaries, the Democratic Party should not have allowed him to be president later when he became president. The Democratic Party drank too much of his own Kool-Aid after President Obama, and they thought they had the Midas touch. Now you have a dangerous man in the White House, and he's doing all those things, and the Democratic Party still does not have one voice nationwide. And I am afraid for them that I believe they might actually lose the next election. And this is just the beginning, because there are people that are ready to do worse things than Donald Trump is doing, the Stephen Millers of this world, the J.D. Vance of this world. So until the Democratic Party get one voice and are ready to fight, this is just going to continue.
Baba, thank you for that. Has this united the Democratic Party? Has it given them a voice?
Is that question to me?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think that there are those of us who did not come back. We were prepared to stay out for as long as we needed to kill these racist maps. And so, but I think we have to come together. We've got to figure out a game plan going forward. I think that one of the game plans is for Democratic states to do exactly what California is trying to do. But I also think back to the gentleman who asked about these independent commissions. Independent commissions work only if both sides buy into it. If one side doesn't buy into it, then you can't agree to have an independent commission when somebody else is going to disregard the independent commission. So I think it's much more complicated than people think. I just think it's much more complicated. I know that the only reason I voted for Biden was because I supported Kamala Harris.
Democratic.
So I think that.
Yeah, we got to go.
And so I do think that we've got to figure it out moving forward. And I think that we have to fight fire with fire, because if we aren't able to take over the House in 2026, I fear what Mr. Baba said, which is that the Republicans will continue to put these really bad policies on us, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I don't think that we're going to recognize our country.
Democratic's Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones, who represents House District 147, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
For having me. Thank you.
Coming up, we'll talk about the upcoming, a fresh remounting of American Psycho, the musical. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Support for Houston Public.
With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Pro, a Houston-based home generator service, providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeCamara. The 25-26 season features a Schubert Perspectives series, jazz with Branford Marsalis and Pat Metheny, and much more. Information and tickets at DeCamara.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
From September 2nd until the 14th, Houston Broadway Theater presents American Psycho, the musical. Based on the best-selling novel and the hit 2000 film, American Psycho is a stylish, twisted, and unforgettable ride through a world of greed, beauty, and blood. Originally premiering in London in 2013, American Psycho, the musical made its Broadway debut in 2016. This sexy psychopathic musical is set at the epicenter of excess and receives a whole new glow with new scenes, new additional characters, and new updated score here in Houston when it premieres next month. Joining us to tell us more about the show is the show's composer, Grammy nominee for his hit single, Barely Breathing, and Tony Award winner for his work on the musical Spring Awakening. It's Duncan Sheik. Duncan, welcome to the program. This is truly a thrill.
Thank you. Hello, Houston. I could listen to Representative Jones all day. I think
we almost did.
I think she is awesome, and she's right on the money. They can't balkanize these districts. It's going to ruin everything in America. But I digress.
But you got something else that's killer on your mind, and that's American. You like that segue? American Psycho, the musical. I know we want to talk about other things you have done, but I've got to ask, when did American Psycho first come into your life? And it's been a journey now.
It has. I mean, it's a very long story, but I'll try and compress it. I read Less Than Zero when I was in high school, the first Bret Easton Ellis novel. That's sort of like a fun romp. And then by the time I got to university, I read American Psycho, and it's a decidedly less than fun romp. And it's really intense and long and sort of strange and very like sort of almost like he was writing it in a disassociated state. And I sort of like, Roberto Sacasa, my co-writer, and both of us, I think, he was at Yale and I was at Brown, and we were like throwing the book across the room because we found it so frustrating. But when I was asked to look at it again 20 years later, and so I had a long flight to Japan. I read the book again as a 40-something-year-old, and I realized, like, oh, wow, this book was so prescient and so ahead of its time. And Patrick Bateman, as the protagonist, is like the world's worst music critic. So there's something really funny that's going on in a lot of that text. And then it's also set in this sort of late 80s, early 90s New York nightclub world, in which I regrettably was very much part of during that time. So I knew exactly what the music was supposed to sound like.
Well, I loved the book. I wasn't a big fan of the movie. So where do you go with the musical? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my when I read the book 20 years later, I loved it too, and I sort of understood the satire, and I understood the way that Bret was really talking about, where late capitalism was going to take us, which is like a sort of destructiveness and self-destructiveness, just by virtue of the fact that all we started to care about was material things. So I understood that to be like a really a difficult concept to get at if you're reading the book, but again, now I understood it. And then for me, the movie, I mean, I like the movie very much. I love Christian Bale, and I love John Cale, the composer who did the score. He was obviously in the Velvet Underground, but I realized I wanted to do, like, I don't know, I was sort of, in my mind, I was like, I wanted to do the first, like, electronic dance music musical, the first sort of house music musical. And so that was sort of the original concept. Like, there would just be a DJ on stage with the actors, and that's all. There would be no band.
Had you worked on Spring Awakening before this? Had this idea started percolating first? Where was this in your creative world?
Yeah, so Spring Awakening debuted on Broadway in late 2006, and we all won a bunch of Tonys, and I actually did win a Grammy for the soundtrack of that record. So it had been around for 3 years at that point. And then the Jesse Singer and David Johnson, the original producers of the musical, came to me and said, read the book, come meet Bret in LA, and let's talk about making a musical. And of course, initially I said, this is a terrible idea. But here we are now. It's like how many years later? 16 years later, And, we've had productions at the Sydney Opera House and in DC and in Chicago and obviously New York and London's going to have another one soon. And so I think the book and the movie and the musical have this weird thing where they've all had a lot of controversy at the front end, and then they've had a very long tail, is how I'd put it.
And Duncan, I've got to ask you, Billboard hits, you're talking musical, Barely Breathing, and we were also talking about your creative world. What are the parallels that you have found most interesting about being, composing music for all the different avenues out there?
Well, I mean, again, it's like I sort of have like a day job and a night job. I'm not sure which is which, but I still tour and I still make records.
Right.
And then I have this life as a composer, both on Broadway and in many other places, all over the world, which is really amazing. But it's like it's two sort of different skill sets. I mean, there's overlap, obviously, but the great thing about working in musical theater, as opposed to just being like a singer-songwriter where you're like, oh, this girl doesn't like me anymore. Like, who cares?
So true.
The great thing about being a musical theater composer and sometimes lyricist is that you can sort of try to inhabit the mind of another character, So it's not just purely this sort of subjective stuff, but you're thinking about, what if I was a German kid in 1891? What if I was a ghost living in a lighthouse in Maine? What if I was an investment banker in 1987 and my best friend was a serial killer? It's like it allows you a much broader palette. Let's just
quickly before we run out of time. One of the big things that we're excited about with American Psycho here in Houston is that it's being updated and reworked, not just a tweak here and there, but a really major updating. Has the story changed for you because of where we have gone as a country, as a culture?
Well, I think 100%, and I think that's why, it's just one of these weird I hesitate to use this word, but it's a weird piece of IP where it seems to become more relevant as the years progress. Just American Psycho as an entity, and so it changes a lot. And again, Tice and Michael, the music director, and Beto, who's like doing the computer stuff, and Joe Calarco, I've just told them, you guys have to make your own vision of the show that suits you as artists. And then I'll come down there and grumble about, how it sounds and make this louder, make this quieter, whatever, for a couple of days. But I'm just excited. I'm just always excited to see different people's take on what this material is, because it's very sort of elastic.
In a single word answer, though, the production that'll happen in London next year, I guess it is, will that be this production or a different one? Yeah.
No, that'll be, so Rupert Gould, who initially did it at the Almeida as his first production, is leaving the Almeida. It'll be his last production there. So it's like bookending his sort of life as the artistic director there. And then it'll go on from there. But
hey, Duncan,
in the meantime,
we have to return some videotapes.
Oh, okay. Well,
we gotta go. We gotta go.
Somebody go get them back there, because those fines are expensive.
They add up.
Duncan Sheik,
thank you.
Duncan Sheik is the composer of the newly revamped American Psycho the musical, playing at the Hobby Center for the Performing Arts September 2nd through the 14th. Thank you, Duncan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Coming up, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars. And thank you.
We have showers and thunder showers around the Houston area. They've issued a flood advisory in effect. Our current temperature is 84 degrees. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll talk with the Texas Newsroom's Lucio Vasquez about the latest camp safety reform. I'm Celestia Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also be joined by the Baker Institute's Bill King on the surplus funds being generated by the Harris County Toll Road Authority and more.
Plus, we'll also share a list of events happening this weekend in Houston for our regular Friday feature, Last Minute Plans.
And we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us by calling or texting 713-440-8870 or by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to hellohouston.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The FBI has conducted a search of the home of former Ambassador John Bolton. Bolton served as National Security Advisor during President Trump's first term, but has since become a fierce critic of the president. NPR's Ryan Lucas is covering developments.
It's important to say that we don't have the full details of what exactly the search of Bolton's home is all about. FBI Director Kash Patel, for his part, he did not mention Bolton directly in a tweet today, but he did post after news broke that, quote, "No one is above the law, FBI agents on mission." But certainly, a search like this of the home and office of a prominent critic of the president adds to concerns about whether the Justice Department and the FBI are pursuing a campaign of retribution against the president's perceived enemies.
NPR's Ryan Lucas reporting on the FBI search of the Washington, D.C. area home of John Bolton. Stocks soared today after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell signaled a possibility of lowering interest rates in the months to come. NPR's Scott Horsley reports Powell spoke to a gathering of economists and central bankers in Jackson Hole, Wyoming today.
Powell didn't offer any guarantees of a rate cut at the next Fed meeting in September, saying he and his colleagues will continue to monitor incoming data on inflation and the job market. But Powell did say, given current economic conditions, lower interest rates may be warranted. That was enough to rally investors who were already betting that a rate cut is likely when Fed policymakers gather in 3.5 weeks. Powell also said President Trump's tariffs are causing some price hikes, but he added it's hard to know how big or long-lasting those increases will be. At the same time, Trump's crackdown on immigration is limiting growth in the workforce. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Trump administration says the federal government will have 300,000 fewer employees on its payroll by the end of the year. That is about a 12% cut. That number first reported by the New York Times. NPR's Andrea Hsu has details.
Shrinking the federal workforce has been a focus of President Trump since he returned to office. His Department of Government Efficiency got right to work, offering incentives for people to leave and then working inside agencies to identify deep workforce cuts. Now the Office of Personnel Management says by the end of December, the government will have shed about 300,000 employees. About half of those opted for the administration's deferred resignation program. Others have been summarily fired or laid off as part of agency reorganizations. Many still remain on the government payroll through the end of September. OPM spokesperson McLaurin Pinover told NPR there are no plans at this time for additional reductions in force. Andrea Hsu, NPR News.
The Dow is up 919 points. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Cuts hitting hospitals and research facilities at the Texas Medical Center due to financial challenges from the Trump administration. Vivian Ho is a health economist at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy.
Right now, the cuts are in terms of research. These are researchers doing studies on cardiovascular disease, cancer, opioid addiction, and depression. So there are significant consequences in terms of our knowledge and treatment of these particular patients in the Houston area.
Ho was a guest on Houston Matters. Baylor St. Luke, the Baylor College of Medicine, UT Health, and MD Anderson Cancer Center are among those cutting staff. Calls for safer street crossings after a teenager was hit Tuesday crossing Westheimer Road. News 88.7's Kyle McClinigan reports.
According to police, an 85-year-old failed to yield the right-of-way and hit a 15-year-old who was crossing Westheimer near Lamar High School. The victim was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The driver was issued a citation for failure to yield. Houston Mayor John Whitmire says he has directed Houston Public Works to install a high-intensity activated crosswalk at the intersection. But Robin Holzer, the executive director of Link Houston, a transportation advocacy group, said more widespread initiatives are needed.
When it comes to public safety, we can't just say, well, that driver messed up, shame on them. We have to make the context work better for everybody because every Houstonian deserves to get home safely tonight. We can do better.
The city said the improvements to the intersection would cost up to $500,000. I'm Kyle McClinigan, News 88.7.
Checking your weather, mostly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms and a flood advisory, a high today of 92. Tonight, mostly cloudy with overnight storms, low of 76. Right now, stormy, 84 degrees on the UH campus. Get the whole story. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org for more news and information. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It is the noon hour here on Hello Houston. I'm going to steal your job. Friday, August 22nd.
Yes, we want to thank you, whether you're tuning in on your radio on 88.7 or you are chiming in and watching us on YouTube. We appreciate you. You can always, again, email us as well at talk@hellohouston.org.
I'll tell you what, there are flood advisories in effect.
Yeah.
One for Harris County until 3.
You kind of said you thought this rain was going to be something.
Yeah, they're getting 1 to 2 inches of rain across the area and expecting maybe 1 to 2 more. This is right there, 4th Ward, downtown, midtown, north side, near Montrose, the Heights. I mean, it's right there in a very highly concentrated part of Harris County. And it's Friday, and people try to leave work early, and so you need to know about this. But it's definitely on the wet side. It continues to rain up into Montgomery County also, and they are also under flood advisories there in the Woodlands and the Conroe area. So
okay, is it moving or is it just sitting? Is it going to
sitting?
Ooh.
That's the problem. That's the problem with your fronts, Ernie, that come in and don't move. The storms that develop don't move either, and that's when you get into flood issues.
Have you had a chance to look at my cold front? It's going to bring the temperatures down, right?
No, it's not. It's not going to bring them down. Nice try, though.
I did. You can always hope eternal, and that's what I spend a lot of time doing when it comes to weather here.
If you don't have hope, you don't have anything.
That's true. You know what we had? We had a very powerful, full first hour on the show. Jolanda Jones, representative. She had a lot to say about a lot, and I bring that up because there was more we wanted to get to. We'll try and have her back on the show. I wanted to know more about her ambitions when it comes to she's in a unique position of having a foot possibly in both camps on this. She has one foot in the side of the redistricting of the map done by the state legislature that would affect the U.S. House, and on the other side, she's got a foot in running for one of those House seats that is going to get redistricted.
And we really didn't get into that.
So we didn't get to that part of the
District
story.
18, but I did find it very interesting how she was naming the three big districts, and I think it was District 18, District 9, and I don't remember the third district that she named, but they were all in this area that are going to really be affected by
the big talk of
these maps.
They affect us very seriously. And so, another area we talked about during the break after the interview that I wish we'd had a chance to get to with her is the talk about you may redistrict along whatever lines they're using. Some will say it's racial, other will say it's by party affiliation. I think the part we can't overlook is dissatisfaction or satisfaction with voters, not necessarily voting simply party line, but voting how they feel the world around them is and is affecting them. And so potentially, even if you redistrict, if people are unhappy with the way the government is going and what's happening in their lives, be it taxes, be it tariffs, be it inflation, will they stay and just vote along party line, or will they move and say, I'm going to vote for the best person? So it may not actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that that everyone obviously will vote, but I hope that people that are black or brown don't feel like they're just all they're by themselves. That they're supported by a lot of people out there, because a lot of people are being disenfranchised where they believe a lot about the Republican Party, but not everything. And they see their friends being disenfranchised, and their friends who are black and brown. And so you think, well, you know what? I can't stand to let that happen.
Right. And I also think that we have to be very careful that when we do talk about brown and Hispanic and Latinos as somebody who has family in South Texas, that we're looking at them, saying, oh, well, President Trump isn't for them because he has very strict immigration policy. Well, there are a lot of brown Latinos that vote him and support him and feel like we need firm immigration policy. Full stop. It's one of those things where, like you said.
Well, then there was a bipartisan bill on the table a year ago, and Trump killed it because he wanted to make the border policy a talking point in the election. So we had one. Right. And so now look what he's doing.
My last bit on all of this is votetexas.gov. Go there, check and make sure you're registered. If not, you can begin to register to vote. That is where our voices are heard best, and we have our most input. VoteTexas.gov. Regardless of what district you're in or what district you will be in, you still have a vote. Make sure you're registered to use it. There, that's my soapbox.
Yes.
All right, headlines.
But we do, yes, right into the headlines. Thank you, Frank. Following the tragic July 4th floods in the Texas Hill Country, the Texas legislature this week moved forward with key camp safety legislation. Senate Bill 1, which was renamed Heaven's 27 Camp Safety Act, was introduced by Republican Senator Charles Perry. It will establish standards for Texas youth camps in regards to weather alert systems, evacuation plans, and training and emergency preparedness. On Wednesday, many of the parents of children lost in the floods were in Austin to testify in front of the Senate Select Committee on Disaster Preparedness and Flooding. Callie McCowan, who's 8 years old, her daughter, Linny, died at Camp Mystic, and she was one of those parents.
This legislation cannot bring back our daughters, but it is the beginning of change that must occur so this tragedy never happens again. It is the start of a promise that their lives and their deaths will mean change. It is an effort to ensure that no other family suffers as we all have.
You said Callie was 8.
And that was again Callie McCowan, whose 8-year-old daughter, Linny, died at Camp Mystic. The Senate committee advanced the bill to the Senate floor, where it was passed unanimously on Thursday. And joining us now to discuss both Senate Bill 1 and HB 1, House Bill 1, is Texas Newsroom reporter Lucio Vasquez. Lucio, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Talk to us a little bit about, there were two measures going forward. And we've just talked about Senate Bill 1, and there was also the proposal proposal that passed, which was House Bill 1 as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us about this legislation and how what people can need to know about it.
Well, they're very similar pieces of legislation. Like you said, Senate Bill 1, no cabins in floodplains, basically mandatory evacuations when flood issues or flood warnings are issued, excuse me. So House Bill 1 in particular, camps must submit disaster plans, teaching the campers, notify parents if cabins are in a floodplain. And so, again, these are all very similar languages, right? But they're not exactly the same. And so I will say House Bill 1 passed the House. It's awaiting confirmation from the Senate. And Senate Bill 1 passed the Senate. Now it's going to need confirmation from the House as well.
So did I hear you right? That will not allow cabins in a floodplain?
Yes. At least, no licenses for cabins in 100-year floodplains. That's what the language
And
says.
if there are cabins in there, then parents have to be notified?
Yes. And I believe, and forgive me, I'm forgetting if it's House Bill 1 or Senate Bill 1, but one of these bills introduces civil penalties as well if these are violated.
So something that I found very interesting, Lucio, when I was going over some of your coverage, you talked about one of the House proposals that was passed, which was House Bill 1. Seeks to strengthen emergency planning procedures at youth camps, but it was after private donors on Thursday pledged $40 million to support it. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that is and what that meant?
Yeah, that $40 million, completely separate, doesn't come from the state or anything like that. Private donors basically accumulated this $40 million to help housing assistance, right? And so that's those who have been displaced, lost basically everything. I know Airbnb was involved. I believe a number of people in the region were staying at Airbnbs for free. And so these are just covering the cost of people who lost RVs, for instance, who live in RVs. There are a lot of RV parks in particular throughout the Texas Hill Country along the Guadalupe River that were devastated. So this is covering the cost of lost RVs, lost homes, repairs, renovations, stuff like that.
And again, we are speaking with Texas Newsroom reporter Lucio Vasquez. To join the conversation, you can call 713-440-8870.
Well, that's very nice. It's thoughtful to help those people out. What do you see in this legislation that, had it been in place before, would have really helped prevent what happened?
Yeah, I mean, House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 are really only a cornerstone of a larger package of bills. I mean, there are a lot of bills that were being pushed through, in particular this week. I mean, gosh, we have, emergency response bills. We have flood warning bills. We have funding in particular. The funding, I think, is a pretty, in particular, important part, right? We have Senate Bill 5, which passed both chambers, the House and the Senate. Now it's going towards the governor's desk. That's $240 million for basically a rainy day fund, lack of a better term, for disaster relief, right? And so that money will be used whenever the next thing happens, because we know that the next thing is going to happen eventually.
Well, any talk of warnings on the river, like sirens or cell phone warnings?
Yeah, that'll be Senate Bill 3, requires state agency to determine whether outdoor sirens are needed in flood zones and set guidance for their use. That bill passed the Senate. Now it's headed to a House committee.
Good.
So how much of all the legislation, as you watch this, are they able to separate the looking back and placing blame to the looking forward and evolving what we do as a state to care? Do you see that struggle happening, especially with the families present? I'm curious how the lawmakers react to those testimonies while they're trying to move forward. It's got to be a delicate balancing act happening here.
Yeah, I can imagine, I mean, gosh, just months prior, right? We had the special session already in place, focusing on wildly different legislation. We had THC regulation, right? We obviously had redistricting, which has become a big forefront of the, exactly, a behemoth in the national landscape of news. But of course, now we also have flood relief after the devastating floods in the Hill Country. So juggling not just what that flood relief is, but also redistricting, for instance. Because of what happened with the quorum break in the House, we've had basically a pause in all legislation that was passed through that first session. So a couple of weeks in which nothing happened in the Capitol, and that's including relief for people who are still hurting in the Hill Country.
Right. And, Lucio, you were out there during that time about 2 months ago during the recovery efforts. What can you tell us? Do you know anything, any updates or anything? I know that we're now seeing legislation being moved forward, but from what you understand, where are we at now?
Yeah, I mean, I will say just the human aspect, right?
Sure.
I think it's important to keep our eyes on, and really our hearts with the people who've been impacted, right? Because, we often get desensitized to a lot of these tragedies, especially working in this industry, right? I mean, so much happens in Texas and the world.
Right.
But speaking with these people who've, say, lost their home, right? And they have no other place to stay. And they're like crying, and you're recording them, and it's a weird dynamic that we find ourselves in. And then also on Wednesday, hearing several parents talking about the fact that they lost their 8-year-old daughter. I remember specifically there's testimony from a man named Bryant Dillon. His 8-year-old daughter, Lucy Dillon, was staying at the camp. This was the first time she had slept away from her parents.
Oh, my gosh.
And then she tragically died along with she was among 27 other girls who died in that night. More than 130 people died in total. And so, again, I know that this is such a behemoth of a story and that it gets, kind of buried under like the politics of it all, right? But I think it's important to keep our minds and hearts really with the people who've actually been impacted.
Absolutely. And, to that point, several House members wore pink hearts and green butterfly pins on their clothing during the floor debate on Thursday in a nod to the flood victims.
I can't believe it would be a debate. I mean,
is there any opposition?
There's got to be a discussion, right?
That's true. Was there any opposition, Lucio?
I think the main opposition is whether or not they're giving enough conversation, enough discussion over whether these bills are actually going to do enough.
Right.
We see a lot of these bills being pushed through right now. And like I said earlier, we've had some pushback. We've had some delays due to the quorum break. So we're stuck between two places. Do we push these bills forward because they're really needed right now? Or do we take some time to actually discuss these bills, make sure that they're actually doing what we want them to do, as opposed to maybe being reckless, like some lawmakers are worried about?
I'm kind of surprised. One of the things that isn't discussed about this, look at the Trinity River. You have Lake Livingston, you have the dam, and therefore you can control the water flow, unless the dam breaks, but you can control the water flow, even though you can tell people in Liberty it's going to flood, but here it's coming. I've heard no discussion of trying to figure out a way to dam up the headwaters there north of where the floods were before coming down toward Canyon Lake. Is that even on anybody's radar, that build a dam there so that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, honestly,
all these bills are about if this happens again, are we going to be ready? Why don't we make it not happen again?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, Frank. And so, Lucio, was there any other conversation besides flood mitigation, like Frank is basically saying, like instead of being proactive instead of reactionary?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there have
I
been
think
many
we would have
discussions.
heard about it.
Yeah, we would have heard about it. I mean,
This was
a lot
an
of the
abject
bills,
failure. This was an abject failure in so many ways. This should never have happened.
I think objectively, a lot of the bills that are being passed right now are at least reactionary. I think we can say across the board, mostly reactionary. There's, let's see. I'm going through the list right now. We've got House Bill 3 creates a Texas council to improve emergency communications and fund upgrades. So, radio towers and stuff like that. So, that seems a little bit alert systems, right? Because
that have to be maintained. You have to make sure they work.
Yes.
You have to make sure people follow the rules. There's
money.
Civil penalties if they don't.
Yeah.
This is a lot of moving parts. If you build a dam to keep this from happening in the first place, there you go.
Yeah.
In addition to these issues, concerns that they are bringing up, is there much talk of programs, policies that were in place that weren't acted upon? If the notifications had gone out as they should have, is there any concern that we had a lot of what we needed in place, it just wasn't being properly deployed?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the Texas Hill Country, Kerr County, and specifically, they have an alert system. Whether or not it was used properly is still up to debate. And properly, I use in quotes, right? Because how do you gauge this moving target, right? Some people would say that if it was used properly, 0 people would have lost their lives, right? But again, it's a really hard thing to quantify. But what we do know is that some people got alerts, say around 4 or 5 a.m. Floodwaters were already rising pretty rapidly. Some other people got alerts on their phones maybe as late as 10 a.m. And so by that point, the floodwaters were already receding. The damage had been done. And so the alert system was in place. It's just whether or not it was used to the fullest extent as it should have been. And there were also some delays in actually sending those alerts as well. I believe local officials had discussions early in the morning as to whether or not they needed to send these alerts. And I believe there was a 40-minute delay there to when they actually pressed the button to send them out. And so systems are in place, but is it user error? Is it are these the radio towers at fault?
Right.
There's a lot of things that are being discussed right now, and they're kind of just throwing a lot at the wall and seeing what sticks.
But the good news is that there is legislation being moved forward and passing so that we can be prepared for the next time this happens.
Yeah.
Lucio Vasquez is the Texas Newsroom reporter. Lucio, thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thanks.
Coming up on Hello Houston, Bill King joins us to discuss the latest on the state of Harris County toll roads. This is News 88.7. Stay with us. With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Group visits available. More at egmh.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Theater Under the Stars, offering a season of musicals at the Hobby Center, including new productions of the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee and $1 Million Quartet. Tickets and subscription details at tuts.org. Support comes from the German Saturday School of Houston, providing instruction for children and adults at Bel Air United Methodist. Registration is open for the upcoming school year, beginning August 23rd. More at 713-569-0801. Support comes from Specs, Texas family-owned since 1962, offering cool sips, snacks, and more to help beat the heat for a cooler summer. Details at specsonline.com. The fun starts here. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Avenue 360 Health and Wellness, connecting Houston residents with primary care, behavioral health, dental, and pharmacy services. A community health center in multiple neighborhoods. Online at avenue360.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, Celeste, do you have a toll tag?
I do.
I do. Ernie?
I do. I don't think there's any money on it.
You'll get a notice.
I never drive the tolls. So.
They automatically hit my card every month.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, going back and forth to Channel 2, I use the West Chase all the time. The West Park Toll Road all the time. And you might wonder, does the Harris County Toll Road really make a lot of money? Well, we're going to talk about that because as much as they make, they are spending a lot of it. $4.5 billion in surplus funds since 2011. So in the past 14 years, they've gotten almost $5 billion in their coffers. Despite that, they're withdrawing nearly $1.5 billion over the past few years. So as it comes in, it tends to go out. Yeah. I know. Joining us to unpack what all this means and explain it in the best terms, our own Bill King, a public finance fellow at Rice's University Baker Institute. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Good to see you guys again.
Thanks
for coming.
Before we get into the conversation, remember, if you want to call and join that conversation, 713-440-8870. Take it away.
I did a story. I used to do stories early in my career with Channel 13 about different things and how they worked. And one of them was, what about the guy that sits in the toll booth and takes the money? And I did a story on that. And I said, what's the biggest problem with being in this toll booth to take the money? He said, when it rains, because people don't turn their windshield wipers off and all the water just comes right at me the whole morning. So now we have other problems.
We don't have that problem anymore.
We do not.
Do we still have people in the toll?
No more.
No, I've never seen one.
That's a thing of the past.
No,
it's all easy tags. It's all easy tags.
Like 21 or something, they completely eliminated that. And that's part of a national trend to get away from. Most places don't have man toll booths anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, all this money's coming in, and you're saying a lot of it's going out, maybe too much.
Well, I think that's a value judgment that the taxpayers have to decide. But We started building toll roads early in Texas, in Harris County compared to the rest of Texas. So we have this legacy asset, and it's very profitable. It takes in about $800 million a year, and it clears about $400 million a year. And so what the statute says is that the commissioners can withdraw that money and move it over to the county fund if they use it for mobility or related projects, which is the big
related projects,
the big, huge caveat. And so they've taken out a lot of money, especially in the last few years. For a long time, they took out about $150 million. That money is mostly split between the 4 county commissioners, and they're supposed to spend it on road and bridge projects in their precincts. But how they spend it's not very transparent.
Well, would this be bike lanes by any chance?
It could. It definitely has funded some, and some people argue that's what the money should be spent for.
Yeah.
Well, as you were saying, how, Harris County kind of forged this in the state, Harris County's also seen a ton of growth. So how does that work when you're looking at the toll roads? Does that help that we have so many people? Is that what is driving this economic push?
Well, that's what drove it in the past. But I think it's important to understand that the toll road system is not growing right now. And in fact, their revenue has been flat basically since the pandemic. They had a dip in the pandemic, it's come back. And that's because Harris County population is not growing very much right now.
Why is that? I always hear that we're growing like
we're
crazy.
Booming.
Yeah. So this is one of the topics I write and talk about quite a bit. But so Harris County, we had the lowest number of births last year we've had in 20 years because women are having a lot fewer children. More people are moving out of Harris County to other states and jurisdictions than are moving into it by a significant margin. The only thing that's propped up our population growth has been international immigration. That was 95% of our population growth last year. And, of course, right now that spigot is shut off almost completely.
And those people, I guess, that are coming in aren't using the toll road as much as in the past.
And we're very flattish on population right now. And that's being indicated. We're seeing it in a lot of places, in sales tax receipts and a lot of things.
So is the answer to raise the toll for people who are using it, or to lower it to get more people and get the numbers up?
There's not really much evidence that the amount of the toll has much effect on whether people use it or not. It's called, whether or not it's
convenience.
Well, and it's also, there's a economic analysis that's done whether activity will respond to price changes. And this is one activity where there's not much change. You've got to use it. You're going to use it. Our tolls are actually pretty low compared to the rest of the state.
Yeah, they're pretty
compared
cheap.
to DFW especially. But we've sort of built out the system. There's really not any place left to build any more toll roads within the Harris County jurisdiction.
Can they make toll roads out of roads that aren't toll roads? That would not be cool, I guess.
I don't think it's allowed legally, but politically it's not going to happen anyway because people would never put up with that. There's going to be some toll roads added when they redo from the West Loop on I-10 into downtown. There's going to be some toll lanes added as optional lanes, kind of like we have on I-10 outside the West Loop right now. There's some talk about a Hempstead toll road. I don't think that's ever going to be built because there's just not enough traffic to justify it. But I think that something I want to make sure people understand is there's been this common myth for a long time that these toll roads were going to be paid for and then the toll roads are going to be eliminated. First of all, that was never promised to anybody. That's kind of an urban myth. And secondly, the toll road system is nowhere close to being debt-free. It owes about $3 billion.
That all started with bridges. When bridges replaced ferries, they were expensive, and they had tolls. And they said, well, but once the bridge is paid for, it's going to go away. And usually it did.
Yeah.
Not always, but usually.
Well, the problem is now we haven't raised the gas tax in 30-something years, and the gas tax is charged on a per-gallon basis. Well, cars are using less gas, inflation's going up, and so the gas tax has paid for less and less roadway construction and maintenance, and nobody's got the guts to raise that. So instead, what we do is set up toll roads. There's now 28 tolling authorities in the state of Texas, and this year tolls will rival the gas tax.
Now, Bill, I want to go back to something that you said. You talked about the withdrawals by Harris County have significantly increased in recent years. What type of oversight is there? Who gets to decide on that process? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a black box. Like I said, the statute says the money's got to be used in mobility or related projects, and there's not any definition of what that related project could include. Mm-hmm. So Commissioner's Court votes to take so much money out every year, and then for the most part, that's allocated to the 4 county commissioners. And then the 4 county commissioners pretty much spend it however they see fit. And they don't really oversee each other because they don't want anybody looking at how they're spending their money.
Right.
Now, the auditors have a role in auditing this, but when you've got a standard, it can be used for any related project. How does the auditor supposed to respond to that?
Do you have any examples of how this money's being spent?
We really don't know. That's the problem. I mean, when you go in and look at the books on this, it'll be like, precinct number 1, salaries and a certain amount of money. Precinct number 4, supplies and a certain amount of money. Now, the auditors have looked at that to make sure it's somehow sort of vaguely related to mobility. But whether or not the salaries of those people were actually out there building roads or not, we have no way of knowing.
Now, we also had Harris County Precinct 4 Commissioner Leslie Briones here this week talking about the $48 million budget deficit that we have.
We shouldn't have it.
Now, is there any way, now I understand that the funds from the toll road have to be allocated towards mobility, but is there any way if the commissioners could come together and the judge vote essentially that they want to move some of those funds to cover some of the deficit?
Well, I don't think they could do that explicitly, but money is fungible. So, we've seen that at the city of Houston a lot. The drainage fee, it was a drainage fee, but it actually got spent for other things. So, but look, I think the issue here is Harris County needs to control its expenses. Harris County property tax have been increased by $1 billion in the last 2 years, and they're taking out an average about $300 million in toll roads. When is enough enough?
Mm-hmm. We are speaking with Bill King. He's Public Finance Fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute. We invite you to join the conversation. It's 713-440-8870. Michael is on the line. You're going to have to pop on your headphones for this. Michael is calling us from Clear Lake. Michael, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is about how toll roads are an unfair tax because it depends on where you live as to whether you have to pay that tax if you live and where you work, right?
Okay.
And it's all because the state legislature doesn't have the guts to raise taxes. Instead, they decide to tax everybody at the toll booth.
Michael, thank you for that comment.
What do you think about that, Bill?
Yeah.
Well, I always love to hear from my friends down in Clear Lake, where I grew up. Look, it's true. It's we've started going to tolls because nobody wants to raise the gas tax. There's some argument about whether the gas tax is the best way to build roads or not. That's been sort of a controversy. I personally am not that much opposed to tolls because I like fees that match up with the benefit that you get from it. So, if you're going to use the road, you're paying for it. But it seems like to me if we're going to do that, we need to do that across the board on all roads. It ought to be a user fee across the board and eliminate the gas tax altogether because, like he says, you end up having to pay it on sort of a random basis of where you live and where you have to go to work every day.
So does some of the excess money that the toll roads make go to the non-tolled roads like potholes and that sort of thing?
Correct.
So that maintains our infrastructure.
Absolutely. That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Again, and look, I think that probably three of the commissioners probably do a pretty good job of spending the money that way. Whether one or two of the others do or not is a little bit more open to question. And then there's the issue about is this money supposed to be spent for things like bike lanes or not?
Yeah, and I could make an argument that taking some of this money and putting it toward constable salaries. I mean, they have to be on the roads.
They actually do that already. So the constables get paid a fee for enforcement on there. And that was a big controversy in the legislature the last time. The city of Houston wanted to also get compensated, and I think they finally worked that out.
We had a text that came in at 713-440-8870, and they asked, please ask your guest, Bill King, why is 288 so expensive?
288 was a privatized toll road. It's not part of the Harris County system. The state built it. It was built by I think a Spanish company, as I recall, and there were a lot of cost overruns and various things, and they were guaranteed a certain amount. But the state of Texas recently bought that out. Now, that's not going to probably provide any immediate relief, but over the long run, I think it will. But because it was built in a very different manner, and also some of this depends on when these toll roads were built. Harris County toll roads are relatively old compared to other toll roads. You go to Dallas, where they got into this much, much later. Their tolls are remarkably higher up there than ours are.
Well, it's like they squeezed in toll roads in Dallas. They didn't think it through.
Well, and I'll say look, when we were building toll roads in the 80s and 90s, the cost was maybe 20% of what it costs to build a toll road today.
I have a text, a personal one from my friend Chris King saying, if there is so much extra money in the coffers, why do they have to do any increases to the toll amounts per car?
Well, they haven't done any recently. In fact, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, the commissioners actually lowered the tolls a little bit, and there were some different nuances to that. But if you had a toll tag, you got a little cheaper deal than if you didn't have toll tags and all that. One of the things that came out in our report that I thought was pretty shocking is there's a bunch of people that use the toll roads that don't pay. And it's very difficult difficult problem for HECTRA to deal with for the enforcement side. But they're losing about $100 million a year from people that use a toll road and never pay.
Well, is that like when you have your choice to HOV it or toll it, and they go through the HOV?
Right.
As opposed to the buildings?
Like easy tags. I mean, there's multiple ways.
There's no gates anyplace. So anybody can drive right through an HOV toll any place you want. And what's going to happen is your pictures of your license plate is going to be taken, and if you don't have a toll tag. And then they've got to go match that up against the state database to see who you are. So Frank went through and didn't pay, so we're going to send Frank a bill. And first of all, there's some problems. Sometimes those images are blurred. Sometimes it's an out-of-state tag and they can't match it. There's all sorts of administrative problems trying to get this done.
Well, that's like 12%.
Yeah, and then if you send the bill and nobody pays, there's really not any enforcement mechanism.
Why is that legal, but the red light cameras weren't?
Well, different statute and different enforcement mechanisms altogether. Yeah,
state versus local, right?
Yeah. Well, and also this is a civil penalty. It has to be collected by somebody.
It's not criminal.
No, it's not criminal. It's a civil penalty,
interesting.
And the county attorney is responsible for collecting it. And this county attorney has never been very interested in collecting money.
Are you surprised they haven't put a toll on the causeway ever? You're a fisherman. I mean, you go
the Galveston Causeway.
Yeah,
well, that was built with taxpayer money along. You really can't go back and toll something that was built previously with taxpayer money.
Well, hasn't everything been built with taxpayer money?
Well, no, the toll roads are built with toll money. There's no tax money involved in that.
Well, Bill, so just to kind of put a cap on this, Harris County's toll road system obviously is a great legacy. It generates a lot of money, but we are seeing those challenges. What do you think needs to happen to mitigate those gaps that we're seeing these challenges?
Look, I think overall, I think the Harris County Toll Road Authority runs a pretty good shop over there. They operate pretty efficiently. They're widely recognized around the state as being one of the better operators. As a matter of fact, the state of Texas just gave them a contract to process tolls for a bunch of other systems in the state. The two things I would say is, number one, we really need to figure out a better way to do better on enforcement, because that problem's going to get worse over time in my estimation. And then the second thing is we really need some transparency on how this money is being spent. If it's being spent on fixing potholes, repaving roads, intersection improvements, all those kind of things that we desperately need here, I'm okay with that. But I would just like to know that's how the money's being spent.
Why won't they tell us?
Well, that's a good question, Frank. Yeah. What motivation would they have for not being transparent? I can't imagine.
We are talking with Bill King, who is a public finance fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute. I always enjoy talking about a variety, a myriad of topics with you. We've talked roads. I want to take you a little bit away from that for a minute, just to get your point of view and your thoughts. Talk to me a little bit on how you are viewing this whole redistricting battle that's going on in the state.
Yeah. You know, you remind my daughter once upon a time told some of her friends that my daddy knows a little bit about a lot of things. I was never really sure if that was a compliment or not.
But they're always interesting things you know. So share with us your thoughts.
So look, gerrymandering goes back to almost the founding of the republic. It started in the 1800s. There's actually a guy named Jerry that went in and changed his district and to improve his chances of getting reelected. That's where the term gerrymandering comes from. Both parties do it. They're both just awful. It got kind of on steroids when computers came along and we were able to really, drill down to the block level and we had all this voting data that was publicly available. So both parties got really good at picking their voters. I don't like this in any shape, form, or fashion. I think gerrymandering is one of the things that has really undermined how the government operates and democracy, and it's a terrible thing. But don't for a second think that both parties aren't equally guilty of this. They did it in Harris County Commissioner's Court here in Harris County just a few years ago. There's 9 states across the country where there's a 30 to 40% Republican vote that have 0 Congress people, members of Congress. So both parties do this all the time. This is just the latest round, which is, of course, going to then set off the next round. Fundamentally, this is a problem of having a government that's, the subject of a duopoly of only having 2 political parties. Every one of our founding fathers warned us, do not let 2 parties get in control of your government. A third of George Washington's farewell address is devoted to telling us to never let this happen. John Adams said that a 2-party system controlling the country was the greatest evil possible under the Constitution. And yet we've just let it happen and nobody does anything about it. And, frankly, if you're one of the people that's stuck in these 2 parties, you're almost forced to do this out of defense. It's just like, Newsom in California has railed against gerrymandering. They did an independent commission. But now they're going to be forced to go do it because of what Texas has done, Right. So I think it's terrible. I wish we would do something about it, but I frankly don't see any relief.
What could we do about it?
Well, we could have multiple political parties, number one.
Well, what about commissions? A commission that would take over?
Commissions are good if everybody has them. But if everybody doesn't have them, California had it. They had a fairly reasonable system to do it. But if another state like Texas doesn't have it and you do it purely on a political basis, then they're going to drop their commissions and respond in kind, which is exactly what's going on right now.
Another issue that's out there, before we let you go quickly, I want to jump in. I know they're all saying, we got to let them go. But no. The THC, where that's going with our state and where we should go. Your feelings and thoughts on that.
So listen, I don't think that prohibitions work. I commend Patrick for identifying this as a problem. It was a big problem. I mean, this stuff was available every place. There were a lot of kids getting screwed up on it, and something needed to be done. But, we only need to go back to the prohibition of alcohol to know that prohibitions do not work, especially for something as widespread used as this is. I'm not listen, I'm the most anti-drug person you'll ever meet. I don't do anything. I don't even drink alcohol. I think all of it is a bane of human existence and cause more heartache and damage to the human condition than almost anything else. But it goes back as far in the historical record as we have records. 5,000 years ago, there are records of people doing various things to alter their mood with all kinds of plants and things. And so this is part of whatever the human psychic is. I'd love to see us do a lot more research and figure out how to address it medically. But if you keep treating it like a criminal problem, a criminal justice problem, you're always going to do more harm than you do good. In this particular case, one thing I really don't like about it is as soon as you ban THC, all you're doing is handing the cartels a huge paycheck.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, when you said Patrick, you were talking about Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Always fascinating to get your points of view.
The other thing I do want, we had Lucio Vasquez in here from the Texas Newsroom talking to us about the legislation that just passed when we're looking at flood reform. Talk to us a little bit about that, Bill, if you can, because you mentioned you were on one of the committees or something prior, so you have some experience.
So after that disastrous Rita evacuation, anybody here will remember that, there was a task force appointed to study what happened, what went wrong, and to make recommendations to change the evacuation plans. And I chaired that task force. We took about a year to look at that. And I will tell you, the thing I worry about right now is when you're in this very emotional moment that we're in, that people go out and say, okay, we're going to do something and we fix the problem. I will tell you that when I started studying the Rita evacuation, almost everything that I thought about it before I started studying it ended up being wrong. And so as we went through that, we learned all kinds of things that changed our view about how, and it took us about a year, and we finally came up with a plan. And when Ike came along 3 years later, you'll recall we didn't have any problems with the evacuation in Ike. And it was because of the things that we took the time to learn after Rita. We need to do the same thing here. We need to take the time to learn exactly what happened. Now, this was a truly extraordinary event from a meteorological standpoint, as you certainly know, Frank. I mean, this is probably a 1,000-year storm. I mean, the water went up 27 feet in a matter of a couple hours. Yeah, something like that. So when you have these kind of extreme events, I think your ability to control them is not – we probably have less ability to control than we think we do. But what I would do is I would take a year and I would go in and study the hydrology. And here's an important thing to understand. This is only one of about 6 watersheds up there that are subject to this kind of flooding. If you recall, over in Wimberley, we had exactly this same problem. I think it was in 2018 or something like that. We had about 20 or 30 people killed over there in one of these flash floods. And so we do something in this watershed. What about the other 5 watersheds that are up there? How are we going to deal with this? You know, like sirens. Do they work in canyons? I don't know. Sirens are typically deployed in big flatlands where, you know, the sound goes out for a long ways. Sirens range is about 2 miles. What's a canyon going to do that? I mean, there's all sorts of questions that need to be asked. Look, I don't blame anybody for feeling like they need to do something right now. I commend Bentoncourt for jumping on it. But what I hope we don't do is declare victory, you know, mission accomplished, and then forget about this, and then have another tragedy in a different watershed, you know, a few years from now.
Dam up the river.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that. I'd love to see the hydrology on that. I don't know.
Bill King, Public Finance Fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute. Bill, thank you for joining us.
You bet, absolutely. My pleasure. Anytime. Yep.
Coming up, we're going to discuss our last-minute plans. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Media.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
I'm Anita Rao. Ryan Kramer was born through an anonymous sperm donor, and ever since he was little, he's wanted to know more about his biological family.
Some people are told that their donor conceived and can live their lives without ever searching or really giving it a second thought. I think those people are very, very rare.
Ryan's story of finding his sperm donor and more than 30 half-siblings. Join us next time on Embodied.
It's coming up Sunday night at 8 o'clock.
I'm Maria Hinojosa. Next time on Latino USA, we pay tribute and honor the life of Latin musician and icon Eddie Palmieri by revisiting the last interview I had with him in 2018.
You got the greatest rhythmical pattern, and now you got the greatest harmonic structures of jazz.
That's next time on Latino USA.
Latino USA, Sunday night at 7 p.m.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713 440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We've made it. We've made it so far that now we get to talk about what we're going to do when the weekend begins. We're that close to it.
You know, we made it through a normal work week, Ernie. That's exactly.
This is what you people do every day for 5 days.
We made it Monday through Friday.
Well, you know, we can't say much. It's been good.
Is it Friday? Why are you here?
That's right.
Yes,
Why are you?
I am here today because I wanted to be with you folks because I've got a vacation coming up. But I promise you, it is the last stretch of time I will take off for a while.
Okay.
Yes,
and you know
I
what?
will be here with
Speaking of the last, if you're looking out for some last-minute plans,
the segue.
There you go.
like that, on Saturday, Asia Society Texas presents Happy Birthday Hung.
No, you started this.
Celebrating
it's all yours, girl.
Hung Hein?
I would say Hung Sin.
There you go. Celebrating a Houston icon, celebrating the 96th birthday of a legendary Houston artist.
Hung Sin.
Living in Houston since 1984.
His sin.
Is one of the most important yet underrepresented contributors to the development of modern ink painting.
Nice. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Also, Cactus Music presents the Midnight Papers in store performance and signing. The Midnight Papers is a garage rock duo from Houston that is influenced by proto-punk and new wave. They'll do
hold
an
on.
in-store
What
performance.
is proto-punk again?
Proto-punk. You tell me, Frank.
I'm not even talking to these two right now. I'm just letting them do their thing. Frank, I've got a question for you.
What?
Tonight, Apollo Chamber Players are over at Miller Outdoor Theater. Are we going out there for it, or is it going to be rough this evening? Shows start around 8 o'clock, 8:30.
This should be okay by 8 o'clock. But I tell you, it's going to be a little muddy out there. So
tomorrow night, they're doing a Texas music scene TV taping at Miller Outdoor Theater.
We should see some dry out over tomorrow and Sunday.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, it's wet out there right now.
National Battle of the Bands is going on tomorrow, and that's in the afternoon. It's in NRG. They're going to have to close the roof?
Tomorrow afternoon? I think they'll be okay.
And they were here with us. That TSU band director was here, and they were fabulous. If you want to check out that interview, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch that.
And I bet the roof is closed anyway, isn't it?
Well, it's going to be
Do they even know how to? Where's the button that opens the roof?
When I asked it, I thought, do they open it ever anymore?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Life of Pi, the hit Broadway play, because it's not a musical, the acclaimed adaptation with puppetry and striking visuals is here wrapping up its visit to Houston this weekend. An amazing show. The puppetry alone is just stunning. Though it is a show with puppets, it is the story of Life of Pi, maybe not a perfect show to take children to. There's a lot in there.
On Sunday, you know what you can take your children to? The Houston Dash versus Seattle Reign FC at Shell Energy Stadium. So if you want to see some great soccer on display, fresh off a pair of wins away and at home, the ladies of the Dash are back in their home pitch to battle Seattle.
Nice.
A couple national days we're celebrating today. I don't know who actually celebrates these, but I love them because it gives us a chance to talk about
so fun,
so bizarre things. So today, National Take Your Cat to the Vet Day.
Oh, that's boring.
All right.
Okay, what else? What
National
else you got for us?
Eat a Peach Day.
I like that.
Interesting. I would think that it feels kind of late in peach season, isn't it?
I don't know peach season. I don't know seasons very well. I know strawberries are in the fall.
Well, I do now because I garden.
Oh, yes. Are you going to get out there and garden at all this weekend?
Actually, tomorrow I will be at my daughter's elementary school. We're having a gardening day and kind of a cleanup. So that's what I'm going to be doing Saturday morning and then just hanging out.
You know, also this weekend is the 6th annual Mariachi Festival. It's happening at the Wortham Center, and it's August 22nd through the 24th. So there's multiple days,
what
multiple
are you doing?
events.
Are you judging
That's going to be fun.
Or?
I am doing a talk back with the cast of Life of Pi. So they're at their matinee. So they're going to do their matinee, and then right after the show, I'll get to go on stage with a few of the cast members, and we'll take questions from the audience. So if you're in the audience tomorrow for Life of Pi, there will be a talk back, and I'll be doing that. that.
That'll be good. What about Sunday?
Sunday, I don't know. I need to look at my calendar. I was thinking about that today. This has been a very busy week. Our fearless leader, Jim Kovacic, who you hear at the top of every break and joins us and helps us put the show together every single day, has been on vacation. And with him gone, has put a little bit more burden over on your lovely hosts here. So I haven't been looking at my calendar. I have no idea what's coming up. And so, yeah.
Also coming up, Cullen Performance Hall presents SNL's Marcelo Hernandez at 7 p.m. That would be he's a great comedian.
Hey, there's some weather out there.
Talk to me about weather,
Still
Frank.
raining. Now they've expanded the flood advisory in Montgomery County up to Huntsville and off into parts of San Jacinto County. So be careful, especially north, but really all over the place. It's some wet weather this afternoon and probably into the evening hours. And these storms are not moving, so when they rain where they are, and that's what causes the flooding issues. Huh. Yeah, so if you get involved in one of those, just really watch out.
Yeah, be careful out there. And also, that brings us to the end of not just today's show, but a week of Hello Houstons.
Right. And we want to thank you for listening, engaging, chatting, calling, texting. Continue sending us your emails at talk@hellohouston.org. We are back on Monday with more conversations. We'll also speak with Rodney Ellis, Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 1, about the 8th year anniversary of Hurricane Harvey. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And this is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind